Azure Active Directory, as we mentioned, is a cloud-based, that is, there's no on-premise hardware that runs it, identity provider that allows you to, say, log into Office 365. However, you can leverage Azure Active Directory to do a lot more for your business, especially if you already have on-premise Active Directory. A very quick and easy way to get started with doing more in the cloud is to synchronize those two services. So you can take your on-premise Active Directory, deploy something called Azure AD Sync, and have that connect to your cloud identities. And so instead of having a user and a password for logging into Office, and a separate user and password for logging into your Windows computer, those two can be one and the same. What's more, through a technology called single sign-on, you can use those same two values, your same username and password, to log into other applications, whether that's Salesforce, or maybe it's your help desk application that your IT staff runs, or many other line of business applications. You can supercharge the security of your identities by then adding on additional features such as, say, multi-factor authentication, where you will not only be asked for a username and password, but also an additional factor to be able to confirm that it's actually you logging in. That additional factor could be a text message with a code that's sent to your device, could be a notification on your device that you simply accept, and there's several other methods for multi-factor authentication. You can go even a step further and enable features such as conditional access, where I set different conditions, not to be redundant, that will allow me to detect the risk of an employee sign-in. If an employee is signing from a known Office computer, then maybe I only ask for username and password. If they're signing in from a personal device, maybe I ask for username, password, and a SMS code. If they're signing in from a personal device in a geography that they don't typically sign in from. So say my employees work from Puerto Rico, where I'm currently located, but suddenly I see a sign in from Portugal. Then maybe I'll ask for a third factor of authentication. And I can then continue to add these conditions to ensure that risky behaviors are mitigated within my organization. We can also add to that things such as privileged identity management, where Azure Active Directory can actually proactively scan for breaches or risky behavior in maybe accounts from my executives or accounts that have administrator access. And in that way, they add increased security to my identity. Why is this important? Well, it's because you may have heard the phrase, identity is the new perimeter. What does that mean? It means that typically, especially for businesses, most breaches don't occur through a large, sophisticated, multi-tier hack of my devices. They occur because the boss was sent a phishing email that said, hey, your password has expired, click here to reset it. And he accidentally clicked there and gave the hackers his password voluntarily. That's what we mean by identity being the new perimeter. If we give people our username and password, we are obviously giving them the keys to the kingdom. So if we can have tools that proactively monitor if weird or risky behaviors are occurring with my username and password, then I can add an additional layer of security to my organization. But of course, here's a real question. What's the financial damage going to be? What's this going to cost me to deploy this Azure Active Directory? And this next slide, we're going to see a lot throughout today's presentation with different tables there and different costs. Now, the good news for most of Microsoft 365 customers is that if you already have certain licensing, things like Office 365 E5, Microsoft 365 E5, or Microsoft 365 Business Premium for small businesses, then this Active Directory feature set, these abilities, this ability to do multi-factor authentication, conditional access, to synchronize with on-premise identities, it's already included. And so the only thing you may have to pay for is bandwidth. What is bandwidth? Well, when you communicate with resources in the cloud, you send data to the cloud, and the cloud sends responses back. In Azure, that reply back, that data that you're pulling down from the cloud, you're billed for. Fortunately, it's very cheap. So say 100 gigabytes of bandwidth, which should be way more than enough for identity, will only cost you about $7. If you don't have Microsoft 365 licensing that includes Azure Active Directory, well, that licensing costs about $6 per user per month. So for a 50 user account, we'd be looking at around $300. And so with Microsoft 365 Business Premium, implementing this additional security layer would cost you about $7 a month. Without it, well, it's going to be a bit pricier. It's going to be about $307 a month for this 50 user scenario. Of course, these numbers can be adjusted to your reality. And if you need assistance doing that, we'd be more than happy to provide that.